Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind UK. Let's watch.
Obviously it's sad for me to see you upset, but we need these conversations because that's what's going to make us stronger.
Yeah.
Like, it's not rainbows and unicorns all day, every day, Freddie. Because I care so much about you and our future.
Okay, so it looks like Freddie is sad and is crying, beginning to cry, I think. And Kat is kind of shifting her tone of voice, and she's trying to reassure or normalize the situation. You know, it's not going to be all unicorns and rainbows. I think what she's saying is that, you know, look, if we're going to be real about this, then there's going to be some realness, and I guess maybe there's going to be some pain, some hurt feelings. Okay. On the other hand, she's hurting him, so she could do well if she's still in the relationship, even kind of, which I think she is. Then she should care about hurting his feelings. And this is a really, you know, one of the biggest signs of therapy working on someone, particularly a dude, is when they can spontaneously tear up as they are having a conflict with their partner, with their romantic partner. Maybe we could say three different phases. The first phase is complete unawareness of one's hurt and a lot of defenses where you either avoid or get angry. The second phase is where you can notice when you're sad and vulnerable, and you can intellectually state it, which is definitely better than the first one because there's a lot of self-awareness and things you can do in the moment, and if the other person can hear that, then that's great. But the third phase is when you just act like a regular human, and when you're sad, you start crying, especially in a situation like this, because you don't need words to explain, and the other person neurologically will empathize and will change their behavior and will soften because you're doing what humans do and have in all likelihood done for, you know, millions of years, or at least hundreds of thousands of years. When we're happy, we smile. When something's funny, very funny, we laugh out loud, you know, without even meaning to laugh. We'll burst into laughter. And when we're sad, we burst into tears, or we, you know, and there's different kinds of crying, right? So the fact that he can do this, I think, one, will help, and two, just shows a lot of emotional maturity, that he can not only state that he's sad, but also show and allow the sadness to emerge out of him. You know, for a lot of clients that I've worked with, again, particularly men, regarding crying, they've had so much toxic masculinity imposed on them. It's abusive to people to make them feel like they're worthless for having emotions. And all people have had that shame and that harm, boys in particular. So for someone to emerge out of that, it takes a lot of time. It's hard. But the fact that he's way beyond that already is 2 thumbs up to me.
No. But yeah, I just want you to trust me. Like, I don't want you to have any doubt about me. You've got no reason to, I promise you. I am afraid of losing Kat. You know, I do have insecurities, but I think
And the other communication from him is that he doesn't want to lose her, right? Like on a physical, visceral, spiritual way, right? It's not just him saying the words, I don't want to lose you. It's his whole body exhibiting that, right? So if Kat is looking for a solution or some reassurance or to feel more secure, then not only does the crying help her to empathize and to maybe stop distancing herself or judging him or making him feel like he's not a good person, but it also could reassure her so that she just doesn't need to distance herself anymore, you know?
He does. I'm okay.
You sure?
It makes me want to cry, but Kat, I will commend as well for seeing it, empathizing with it, lots of eye contact. You know, you could tell that she could see him descending, and well, she was caring, and then she, without hesitation, you know, gets up to hug. There's a lot of other reactions that we could imagine her having, like, what are you so upset about? Or just being verbally comforting. You know, what people want typically, particularly in a situation like this, is to be held. We have that compulsion, I believe, because we evolved it. We evolved the compulsion and the automatic response of crying, you know, come right out of the womb. We're doing it already, right? It's not a choice. We didn't learn it. It's something that is, in all likelihood, programmed into us, evolved into us, right? And why do we do that? Well, I believe, and I think there's strong evidence from a lot of different angles, that we do that because we need reassurance. We are social creatures, and when we cry, it provokes a visceral response from other people, and even if we don't even know the person who's crying, we feel that, right? And as long as you don't have a lot of defenses and a lot of traumas, you will respond like this. So that action of I'm crying, I'm hurt, and I'm putting water out of my face, and I'm starting to sob, and then compulsion to cry, compulsion to comfort, and then solution, resolution. Typically this can solve a lot. Why does this work? Why does this make us feel better? Well, we evolved this. I could go into all the speculation as to why or what the theories are, but this is natural human behavior, and this reflects our needs and our reason for living is this. So it's good to see. I was unclear about their relationship, particularly in the last little bit. So this is actually a pretty good sign.
Moment, it's just been us two going through it together. What about you?
I think I'm pretty okay with my phone. I think I'm quite disciplined. I don't really like using my phone when I'm with other people.
Is that a hint?
Yeah. I'm a really jealous person. I don't know how he is on his phone. Is he constantly on social media, scrolling on Instagram?
Okay, so she's saying that she's a very jealous person. So that is good for her to know about herself. I wonder, though, because the way that it's edited, she is kind of saying, look, I'm a very jealous person, therefore other people have to adjust to me instead of us working together on this, including me having to figure out why I'm jealous or manage my jealousy so I don't impose controlling measures on other people. But I mean, they usually include these bits as a prelude to something because, they have a lot of footage. They have to be very careful about what they include. Otherwise, the show would be 10 seasons long. So is this a harbinger of things to come? Somehow I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. We'll see.
So what did you think when you heard, I'm a makeup artist? Enlighten me.
Just huge
Don't.
admiration.
You had a low opinion of me.
Well, yeah, when I heard that, I did. I was a little bit judgmental when I first heard what you did.
Okay, so Tom and Maria are talking. They're talking about in the pods when they disclosed their job, and Maria is a makeup artist and Tom is a PR person, and he's saying that he judged her, and maybe this is a prelude to him saying, but now I realize that's ridiculous. Let's see what he says.
That's horrible.
Do you think so?
Yeah. You need to be a little bit less judgmental.
I can be a bit judgy at times. But, the one thing that I will stand by on that is, the big value of mine is, work hard, be ambitious, because I want to live, a really good life,
Shades of, what was her name? Shades of Stacy and Izzy. Yeah. They're talking about her job as a makeup artist, and she seems completely secure with her job. She's like, yeah, this is what I do. I like it. Plus, I don't know if he knows how much she makes. I don't know. But he's like, I want to live a really good life. That translates to, I think, make a lot of money, more money than I need, because I want to feel... Does he have a posh accent? Y'all use the word posh, right? In Britain, in the UK. And from my understanding, aren't there posher accents than others? But it doesn't mean that we know his position on things. But, classism is a thing. And from my understanding, the UK has a huge dose of classism. The United States does too, but from my understanding, to a lesser extent. So I think that's what we're hearing. But, maybe he's really realizing, well, but those days are over for me. That's stupid. I have to rethink this whole thing because life isn't about that bullshit.
I just think it's the sort of like the way that people build up a picture of someone. I want to feel secure that, like, when you're thinking about romantic compatibility, you're thinking, oh, I want to have someone that shares the same values as me. Like, jobs. It's like normally the deal breaker in most, like, normal relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, no. I guess among people that are stuck up, elitist, classist, or they're trying to climb the ladder of prestige and class, but yikes. Now, classism exists, and it absolutely will affect people's behavior in romantic relationships and will absolutely dictate people's desire or motivation to start a relationship with someone. And whether you know it or not, even if you don't know how much someone makes, you can tell by the way that they hold themselves, by the way that they talk. Even though in the United States you can't really depend on accent, you can depend on their vocabulary, the kinds of things that they talk about. It's very obvious, when you really think about it, it's very obvious for Americans to know someone's class pretty quickly based on the way that they hold themselves, again, their vocabulary, their job sometimes, right? But you don't even need to know that kind of stuff. You don't need to know how much they make. There's just a lot of signaling. And class can be a product not necessarily of money, but it can be a product of education. You know, like there was a time when I had completed my first graduate degree when I was 26, and I was in massive amount of debt. And on paper, I was in poverty. I was earning $2,000 a month, and $1,100 of that was for interest alone on my student loans and credit cards that I had maxed out during graduate school to survive and pay my bills. So I was going into more debt, and I didn't have a clear way out of it. I ended up having to work 70 hours a week to get out of it, and I did. But it was uncertain at the time. And so on paper, I was lower class, right? I didn't fit the economic definition of middle class or even lower middle, really. But because I had education and privilege and somewhat of a, connections with others, and I had a safety net, I suppose, of my friends and family, if it came to that, then that is a different situation, right? The way that I talked was that of an educated person. My prospects were that of someone that was more middle class, that kind of stuff. Anyway, point is that all that is a part of the landscape in most societies, and they're, I think, having a conversation about it. And he's saying in most relationships, if there is class, I think he's talking about class incompatibility, then it would break up that relationship. That's the primary compatibility. Given that he's saying this, I think indicates that he's at least towards the one end of the spectrum regarding class, because if you were lower class, you wouldn't say this, or you wouldn't want it to be true. So the elite will often be conscious of this because they're like, okay, does this person fit within can I bring this person to my family and to my friends and to the golf club and feel like I'm not lowering myself, or people aren't going to be snickering behind my backs, that kind of stuff. I'm speculating. Of course, I'm expanding. He's not saying any of this stuff, but there are hints.
Values as me, like jobs. It's like normally the deal breaker in most, like, normal relationships, isn't it?
No. I find it bizarre that people might judge me based on what I do for work and build up a picture about me. I think that's really stupid.
Yeah, agreed. People do, but to consciously make choices, and they're not being explicit, but I think what they're talking about is to look down on her, to think that she has less worth as a person, or that she's not worthy of marrying or something. I think that's what they're getting at.
I would have considered dating someone who was a makeup artist, but if I'm honest, I would have had some preconceptions about that person. I probably would have assumed that maybe they were quite concerned with how they looked, maybe a bit shallow.
Oh, is that what he's talking about? So it's not class, it's the lifestyle? Okay, so I could have been completely wrong about all that. I apologize to Tom for jumping to that conclusion. So maybe he's just saying, no, it doesn't have anything to do with social class, it just has to do with I have a stereotype of... Well, it's like with my wife. She is and was a much more active professional model in the past. And I had a stereotype about, I mean, I had known people who had done modeling, but I hadn't ever met someone, I don't think, who was just wall-to-wall modeling all the time. You know, that was her full-time job. And it was all over the board. You know, you have magazine shoots, you have clothing things, you have runway stuff, you have fashion modeling, you have the cover of romance novels, you have, what else? Websites, display of socks, the hair dye. She was the woman on the cover of the hair dye, you know. Sometimes she was a human mannequin for designers who were trying to figure out the exact cut and fit of an outfit of some sort. And I had a preconceived notion, and that was dispelled by her. The stereotype I had was that models are being exploited, really. I guess I had a stereotype about the photographers and the agents and the people that hire the models, because that's what I'd seen in the movies, you know. But she's like, no, everyone that I've worked with, for, you know, the vast majority of people have been wonderful to work with and very respectful and fun to work with. She's been a model since she was like 15 or 16, so she's seen some shit, particularly in other countries like, well, I won't name the countries, but. So is that what he's talking about? Just a stereotype about what a makeup artist is or likes or concerns oneself with?
Relationships are about compromise. And if you go into this being like judgmental, then probably no point of being here at all. I'm not going to sit there and have anyone make me feel like I'm less than because they don't think my job's adequate for them or they don't think I'm intelligent enough for them.
Okay, so now it sounds like it is a class thing or an education thing or an intelligence thing.
To not know someone and then here they do a job and like, well, there must be this kind of person then if this is what they do the job. It's like, that's ridiculous. It's very judgy to be like,
So we're not hearing what his response is. Might he have said something they left out of the edit where he's just like, yeah, totally, I agree. I've changed my mind. That's really dumb. We're not hearing that yet. Or did he not say that? Did he? Yeah.
Sorry, who the fuck are you? Like, who are you to try and think that of me? Like, absolutely not. Because I wouldn't want to live with someone if I wasn't, like, certain on them. I wouldn't want to share a space with them.
Yeah, they're doing that thing where she will say something and then they cut to him kind of looking around, implying that he didn't say anything reassuring or anything at all. And then they have the powerful, dark, the foreboding song come in. I'm going to assume that if we saw the conversation, there would be some nuance there. But as I've said before, sometimes they will edit in these really ham-fisted ways as a way of telling a larger, longer story in a shorter way. You know, sometimes the edit, you know, like other shows, they'll do these really deceptive edits where they'll throw these, you know, red herrings at you where it'll be like, oh my God, she cheated. And then you see in a later episode that it was just a trick that the editors played on you, you know. This show doesn't typically do that. If they're going to have terrible edits, typically in my experience, it's because they're trying to foreshadow something, honestly. So is this a foreshadowing? You would know, I'm guessing, because you've seen it. Okay, well, the way that they're editing it, you know, he got up. I'm going to hope that he reassured her and they just made it look bad in the edit. I don't know. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that the editors are never screwing with us. Like, there was the Chelsea and Kwame editing, or at least what they showed to the cameras, was, I think, for a lot of people, I mean, at least me and my wife, figured there's no way that they're a yes, particularly Kwame, and they were. So I guess they do edit in these manipulative ways so that there will be like a curveball or a surprise or something. So who knows? Well, I guess we'll find out. I'll find out.
Like, I really struggle. I get really stressed out about little things that, like, don't bother you. I never normally admit it to people. Yeah, but yeah, I do have ADHD.
Really?
Yeah. You're probably one of, like, I kid you not, 3 people outside of my family that know.
Okay, interesting. So she was saying that she noticed that he can be impatient and pacing and impulsive. And he said, "Oh my God, it's mad that you notice things about me." That is a good sign to feel seen and understood. And he feels comfortable enough to disclose. And he says, "I kid you not, 3 people outside of my family know." Well, now a lot of other people know because he said it on the show. And it's a sad state of affairs that we have societies where, including mine to some extent, that people feel like they have to hide it, right? And that can cause a lot of problems, right? I mean, people don't hide things typically because it's an arbitrary decision. You know, they're usually hiding because there's good reasons to hide, because of discrimination and misunderstanding, stigma. And what ends up happening is that people will start noticing behaviors, but because they don't have any way of conceptualizing it, they just think that the other person, the Ollies of the world, are lazy or lacking in empathy or maturity. It's interesting because, you know, up until this point, I've been wondering about his reactivity. And, you know, this was on the list, I suppose. It was further down. I typically don't jump to this conclusion, but it does add to the picture. I wouldn't say that this is the only, when someone has ADHD, it's not like that their entire personality is dictated by that difference, but it does inform those previous interactions where he would feel, well, yeah, it really rewrites history. I mean, depending, it depends on how it manifests for him and what other kinds of factors are playing into his behavior. But when he is just with Demi, seems to do well, and their relationship goes well. Then, when they're at the parties, he has a different vibe with her, right? So that could be due to a number of things. Maybe he'll tell us, but just off the top of my head, hypotheses is that, one, because of the social environment, there's a lot to keep track of, right? And he might also have traumas around those kinds of environments and having misunderstood situations or been impulsive or something and caused consequences which would cause ostracization. And if he's not telling anyone that he has ADHD, then he's trying to mask, he's trying to act like everything's fine. And he might have a lot of history with that, which could make it harder for him to hold things together and identify with his true self, which is someone who loves Demi and is cool with things.
Do you know what I mean?
Cross the line, imagine there's no borders.
ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder, and it can manifest itself in different ways. But it's complicated, and for some people it's more severe than others, and in my case, unfortunately, it's really, really severe, so it's something I've struggled with.
Okay, I'm curious, maybe he'll go into it, maybe he won't, but he's saying it's severe. Usually that indicates that someone has a really hard time in school, has a really hard time with tasks that require one to keep track of a lot of steps, or remain focused when there's a lot of other interfering things to focus on. I guess I'm really curious as to where else this is headed, and I'm sure we'll never find out, but I'm curious as to when he was diagnosed and how they noticed. Because if he was diagnosed like in kindergarten and helped with it and his family knew what to do, then that's a whole different thing. Whereas if he was diagnosed like last year and went through a lot of really difficult experiences, then that's a different scenario. That second scenario, the individual has ADHD, but more importantly, they just have a lot of traumas of bumping up against the system or other relationships or teachers or something and being labeled as lazy and feeling really crappy about oneself. So I'm just wondering what that mix is for him.
Because I find it really, really difficult.
Is it?
Mine affects me every single day. Like, I really, really struggle with it. Like, little tasks that you would just get done in 5 minutes and not think anything of would take me, like, half a day to even, like, almost, it sounds weird, but, like, pluck up the courage to attempt. And then I will try and do it, and it'll take me 2 hours when it's...
Yeah, that's interesting. So he's saying that he has to have the courage. And originally that wouldn't be the case, but I think what he's talking about is he is worried. For him to go into a task that has a lot of steps in it, like a 5-minute task, he has to get the motivation, because in the past he would start and then he would be distracted and then things would fall apart and he would feel bad or people would attack him. And so the emotional part of it is likely because of that history. So yeah, I wonder if he has treatment or guidance or workarounds.
Because
That's
like,
fine.
and it's just like.
But look
I
at the
don't
way
know.
you articulate yourself. Like, you're beautiful with words. Your proposal was beautiful. And like, you come up with something so beautiful, it might have taken you a bit longer than someone else, but it was still amazing. And I love that about you.
It's great. They're playing a little piano chord progression that I like as well. I don't know who wrote the little interstitials, but it's a chord progression that I like. Anyway, yeah, this is great. Look at his big smile too. That's great.
Don't ever be ashamed of that. I'm just glad that you're opening up to me about that, because I think that's very important.
Thank you for understanding me.
Always.
And being patient with me.
Always.
Isn't it funny?
It's great. Yeah. For her to, without any hesitation, I wonder if she has experience with it. I wonder if she suspected or something. I don't know. But the fact that she intuited, you know, because he didn't say, I'm ashamed, I need reassurance. She intuited that and did it, which is a great sign.
It's lovely when we're laughing and stuff, but actually when he's opening up, it's beautiful. And it's probably the moments that make me realise, like, yeah, I love this guy. If it continues going like this, then obviously I could see Ollie being my husband.
All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching, if you care to. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, truly, because you deserve it. You really, really do.